All right, we're going to get started. Appreciate everybody joining. Again, if you could mute your phones, computers, etc., that would be great. And turn off your cameras. We'll continue to admit people. If you have to jump off and jump back on, no problem. But we are going to get started. Thanks again for joining us. We're excited for another season here. We're going on our 17th and
18th. It's 2005 was our first year.
So 18th season here in Atlanta. And we're really excited for a number of reasons. One, because, and we're going to talk about it here in a moment, the transition we made recently with League One into our new facility as well the past year or so. And then also our really exciting news that we were ranked #1 in the country. So for those of you who don't know how the rankings work, Triple Crown Sports does those for most of the youth sports around the country. And we've been #2 for a long time to our rival TAB in Dallas. And finally, we overcame them. And it may seem small for some people, but for us, it's a really big deal. And we're really excited about all the families and the coaches and the administration, the kids, everybody who was a part of it. So if you're a returning player, thank you so much for your participation. And if you're new, we're excited that you're joining. So, Bob, do you want to say any, I am here and you can probably see us on the camera. And then also you'll see the PowerPoint as well. With me is Bob Westbrook, founder of A5, and Grace Bossier, who is the director of our youth program. I'm Gabe Ramian, I'm the director. And Bob, do you want to say anything before we get started?
Just welcome and thank you for taking the time and being interested. We can't do any of this if we don't have players, and the long run is their journey, and we feel there's a sacred quest for us. I know that's a corny thing to say, but you bring us the most important thing in your lives, and we want to help create a great experience as well as competing at a level that reflects the pursuit of excellence.
So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to get started, and if you have any questions at any time, you can ask it in the chat box. So I am writing now, and you guys can see. Ask any questions here in the chat box, and we will stop when appropriate and answer those questions. There's probably going to be several times that your questions will be answered later in the slides, so just be aware of that. All right, so let's get started. If you do not know, League One Volleyball recently asked us to join their organization last year, and we were able to make that jump. So this is old news for those of you who were with us this past year. If you're new, this is one of the first organizations in the United States that really are taking a full force effort to create professional volleyball in the United States. They're using clubs as their anchor for this, and they see A5 as one of the primary institutions to help them achieve their goals.
So an interesting anecdote, just brief, is I was sent to Atlanta in 1976 by an organization hoping from a grassroots club perspective to eventually build up to a professional women's league. And here, so it's incredibly gratifying to finally see a group emerge like League One that has the same mission, albeit 50 years later, but that looks like they have a tremendous chance to succeed. So we're happy to be and proud to be part of that effort.
We just got back from their annual gathering in Southern California, And Bob and I and Scott and a few others in the organization on the first introduction night, the party that they had, the people who attended the party, the entire starting national team who won the gold medal in the past Olympics, including Karch Karai, the head coach and arguably the greatest player of all time, and a whole host of other individuals in the volleyball world at the very highest level in the world were all around us. And they were all a part in some way of this organization moving forward. It really is something special. And for many of us, we're focusing on just the small things here in Atlanta, but there are much bigger things going on behind the scenes, and we're just excited to be a part of it. If you haven't been before, please come by anytime. We have training daily. We'll have some slides that talk about that, but we have our world-class 14-court facility with our Rio Olympic court right in the middle on court 7. For those of you that are regulars here in the gym, you'll have to forgive us for the construction that's been going on, but we are very close to our tenants opening their side. The name of the tenant is going to be Pizza and Games Entertainment, and they will start their walkthroughs and their training in a couple weeks. They should be open in the next month or so, and what that will be is first our front entrance, thank God, and you'll have a restaurant that is athlete friendly, smoothies, etc., but also quick on the go stuff. They'll have sandwiches, pizza. They have a really nice pizza oven that they have there. It's going to be a big part of their sell, and salads and some other things as well. They'll also have a bar that overlooks the courts with TVs, and they have a gaming area that is kind of on the front lobby, and that is for the little brothers and the sisters and anybody who might want to have a team party here or anything like that. So should be great. Once it's all done, we do anticipate it being one of the most unique volleyball facilities in the United States. Many people ask, what is A5? Not a lot of people know. It's A stands for Atlanta, and 5 stands for the 5 C's. And this is our mission statement, and the one that we hold true, teaching life lessons through the sport of volleyball. If you haven't been in the gym lately, on the front side of the offices, when you walk in, we had an extraordinary muralist come in and paint a few different things. One is the butterfly for the pitchers, but she also painted our mission statement there, and it's just great. If you ever get a chance to come in and look at it, take a picture with it. That's something that we.
I personally want to go out and be a muralist, just to say that I was a muralist. Just has real ring here, but she did extraordinary work.
So what separates us from the rest? Well, there's a whole host of things, and we can spend most of our time on this, but really what we want to talk about is this next season. We will jump around with the travel and some other things throughout. I'm going to let Bob talk a little bit about the travel, but from what we've said at the beginning, even though some of our policies have changed a little bit, we'll get into that as well, that we're still all team all the time and we schedule for success.
Yeah, this year we, for the first time, we're going to let the families make their travel arrangements. And we'll do that. They'll be able to take advantage of different resources in their world and make it more efficient and more cost effective. We will require that the athletes, as in the past, be at the hotel the night before, where we have our team dinner or team meeting, because we believe that the competition starts the night before and not the morning of. We think that's part of what our cultural mission is. In fact, The only thing, whatever we've done that's remarkable, because we spend most of our time trying to figure out what we need to do better, is our culture, creating culture in a vacuum, how we do what we do, right? So scheduling for success means that we want our teams to have 3 different levels of tournaments, right? One is, you know what, if we play pretty well, if we just play ourselves, we should win this tournament or do really well. The second is, it's 50-50 that, that we should be competitive if we play well, but we're going to have to bring our A game to do well in this tournament. And the third is we want them to play in tournaments where they're probably going to, be kicked around some. Because what we've learned a lot from challenge, and our opportunity to be successful lies in that challenge arena, and not just playing teams and places that we think we can always dominate. We have to give our athletes the opportunity to grow.
We have a top-down system. Many clubs now in the country have tried to emulate it. We weren't original in it, but we did adopt it and adjust it in a way that we felt was best for us. And we do believe that, and many coaches that have been through our gym, particularly college coaches, would second that we do it as well as anybody. And we do have a master coaching system. Really, our league coaches, those like myself, Bob, Grace, and we'll have maybe 1 or 2 others, disseminate the practices and the lessons, including the technical bases, et cetera, that we try to get through our kids. And that passes down through the master coaches, and the master coaches down to our mainstay coaches and to the players. What that means is that when you get a team, that is not the last coach that you're going to see in our system. Your player will be in some way coached by all of our top coaches, regardless of what team they're on. And that's one of the big sells for our organization. And it's also one of the reasons why we've had so much success over the years. That ties directly to our coaching lineup, which we believe is one of the best in the country. And we have had very little attrition rate over the past 10 years and really over the past few years, because our coaches love it here. They see it as their second home, and we have people with us. I mean, we have a coach that's coaching our 13-3 team this year that's been with us for 15 years.
Well, and, the other thing about that is that we certainly believe very strongly that our coaching lineup, combined with our top-down system master coaching, gives us the deepest coaching experience. Humbly, I'm going to say this humbly, but it's true, the deepest coaching experience in the country.
We have mid-season surveys. We really encourage everyone to fill those out. We will have a board rep assigned for every team. The strength and conditioning program is built in to the athletes' training. And we also provide materials for those who do not have or might not have a program that is set up for them separately outside of the gym that we suggest everybody follow. It is a little bit different for the younger kids versus the older kids. We do preach it a lot in the gym as well, but certainly one of the things that we need to be better at, not just us in A5, but all of our athletes and athletes in general, is making sure that they actually train outside the gym as hard as they do inside the gym. We do hold that dear to us. The Sportsplex, obviously, we've talked about, and we're really fortunate to just have an outstanding facility. So we'll just breeze through this. We could spend time on it, but most of the time, as Bob already mentioned, the only thing we care about is next year. We are excited. We did try to celebrate a little. We are going to, continue to hold our coaches on a pedestal, but we were fortunate to be ranked the #1 club in the United States this past year, and it was a tremendous feat, and we're just really thankful for everybody who was a part of it. We've had more teams qualify for nationals than any other club in the country, and I think that is probably about 10 years running. So another great feat. Last year was the best year that we have had in the postseason. We won 8 national championships, and we got 21 medals at AUs and USAB. Now, and this is a great transition for us because, and I'll just tell you just a little story. As we went into the League One group of clubs this past year, one of the remarkable things for the leadership in League One, who are mainly corporate people, that they couldn't believe the emphasis that Bob and I put, including the club, into every single team and player in our organization. One of the myths is that, well, all the focus is on the top teams, and that is just simply not true. In fact, last year we won 2 national championships, and those 2 teams were our 16-2 team and our 17-2 team. And 15-2 and 16-2 team. This year we won 8 national championships, and our 15-5 team, our 15-3 team, our 16-3 team, our 16-2 team are all examples of teams that won national championships. So even though it seems like a lot of the focus may be on our top teams, it's not the case. And there are, the famous talking points that Bob and I will stay up until the middle of the night talking about the very last kid on the very last team that we have, because we put our emphasis on everyone.
A great example of that is Grace and I and Gabe have had multiple conversations about an athlete that may be in our regional team program, or that last athlete on the 12-9 team and 12-7 team. And because each one of those athletes are really important in their own right, and if we're not committed to helping them achieve the kind of experience that we want for our athletes and our children, then we've lost our way, and we don't intend to do that.
We've had a lot of people jump on in the past 5-10 minutes. So this is just a reminder. If you have any questions, ask in the chat box, and we will answer as we can through the process. And a lot of this information you can also find on the website. So if you are seeking for further details, you just simply log on and search. And if you can't find it, just send an email to our info admin, and they should get back to you within the day.
Yeah.
So just a few testimonials. Again, we're fortunate for all the great feedback that we've gotten over the years, and we're also excited, and we look forward to the criticism as well, because we're always looking to get better. We talked a little bit about the master coaching system. Our philosophy for our coaches is we want our coaches and master coaches to just coach. There are many clubs around the country, when a coach gets their team, they have to organize the travel and the tournaments. They have to organize money, budgets, and so on. We try to avoid all that for our coaches here at A5. We want our coaches to be able to walk into the gym, and their number one concern is coaching the teams. We assign one board rep for each team. We do have a grievance policy that's outlined in the player-parent contract. If you make a team, you will see all that. For those of you returning, know what that is. We do have volunteer parents. We think it's an important aspect of the experience. We have a travel coordinator. They'll deal with Scott and Mary, who will be new this year, food and communications. So Bob touched a little bit earlier on travel. We'll try to play in local tournaments when we can, but we travel, and we have to travel to get good competition.
Yeah, it was something that we realized very early that if we wanted to actually compete at the level, and this was true for a great many of our teams, certainly with our club, we were going to have to travel to them. There was just not any reason for these clubs to come down here where we were at. So we made that commitment, and that it is still in place. We still have to travel extensively to be able to get the competition level that we would like to have.
Depends on the age as well. Grace can discuss maybe a little bit later when we get to the youth stuff, or if she wants to chime in at any time. Obviously, our younger, less experienced teams will travel much less. Most of our 12 and under teams actually will be inside the city. But once you get to the higher level 12s or 11s.
11-1, 12-1,
Yeah.
12-2.
Yeah, they'll travel a little bit more. So I think I answered that question to Scott. Again, it depends on the specific team, but if you are still new to the game and you make one of our 11s teams, 12s teams, you won't travel as much. If you're more experienced and you make one of our higher level teams, you'll travel a little bit more. And we'll generally play in anywhere from our beginner kids to about 6 tournaments during the season to our most advanced teams, which will play in about 8 or 9 tournaments during the season. The regular season will end in April. And then the postseason for the teams that qualify and or go to AUs goes through June. And we'll get to some of that information here in a second. When we discuss all team all the time at the beginning, this is what we mean. A5 will handle all the player hotel arrangements. That means that the players will stay together when they're 14 and up. 13 and below, A5 will provide the block rooms for the families, but the players will stay with their parents. That means that hotel costs are in the numbers that you'll see and that are up on the website for 14 and up. They are not for 13 and below. Bob already mentioned this, new this year, that parents will be responsible for all travel to and from tournaments. And that was our attempt to allow the parents to control their travel and look for any means necessary to maybe save money, et cetera. There's a lot of reasons why kids play. Obviously, recruiting is one of them. We don't always want it to be the number one reason why. We think that there are many beneficial things for not just playing volleyball, but playing sports in general as a young athlete. But recruiting is a big one. And we have a stellar history. We've had nearly 1,000 players go on to play in college. And when we say we're batting 1,000, that means since 2007, everyone who has sought to play in college on our 18s teams have had that opportunity. They've had some opportunity to play. Some of them have not chosen, and that's okay. But still to this day, we have not had a senior come through that did not have an opportunity to play in college as an A5.
In point of fact, there was a key girl that at our founding year, there weren't that many middles in the city. And it was a key girl that was clearly committed to not playing college, but she was uber talented. And she decided at the last minute she was going to play her last year of club. And she received multiple college scholarship opportunities, which she continued to turn down. And then went to play in Michigan, played the school in Michigan, and played club volleyball there. And was offered at the club national championships multiple scholarships. But so even though we certainly want to provide the opportunity for athletes to pursue college experience, and it is a central tenet of what we're offering, at the same time, it is not the end-all be-all. That we want athletes to have an experience that shapes their lives in a meaningful way. If that results in college, that's awesome. If it doesn't, if that's their choice, that's fine as well.
If you are an athlete, typically freshman or above, we will have our Southern Volleyball Showcase. It's one of the largest college showcases in the country and one of the best run. It's been going on for over 10 years now, and we're excited to continue that tradition. That information, sign up, and details can be found online. Just a word from one of the SEC head coaches. Very important. We try to educate, and obviously this is not the recruiting seminar, but a big part of our recruiting process here is education. So 18s, things have changed a little bit over the past 5 years, rule-wise. They've shortened the season, and we realize many of you on the call may be younger, which is okay, and it's pretty typical, but it's important that we at least discuss it. They'll start qualifiers right away. Their regional championships are in March, and then they play nationals in April, and they're done for the season. So obviously money is a big part of playing club sports, not just volleyball, but club sports are expensive. And knowing that you are trying out for the #1 club in the United States, obviously we are not going to be the cheapest option on the block. But we also find when you compare apples to apples that we're not always the most expensive either. So one of the things that we try to preach is do your research. When coming to tryouts, and if you make a team, we will have some type of fundraising opportunities. Those are individual fundraising opportunities, raffles, etc., that we will use that families can take advantage of to save money. We do have a fee due on commitment night. This is pretty typical for all the clubs around the city. We encourage everybody to pay the full price up front, but we do have payment plans that extend through March for a minor inconvenience fee. We will have our regional teams this year. These were known as CVC in the past, and now they'll be a little more incorporated into just the A5 teams. They'll have a different tryout. Now all that information can be found online. And the real big difference is instead of 2 to 3 practices a week with 2 coaches, you're gonna have 1 practice a week with 1 coach, and it is cost effective and cheaper. The CVL, which is also a great alternative, occurs once a week as well. They will not actually be on a team, although when you come to train, you'll be put into team groups where you get to play 6-on-6. Those groups might change from week to week,
Right.
but it's not as organized as the regional teams.
It's focused for athletes that are trying to sport out for the first time, or they have other conflicting things they do that doesn't allow them to play full-blown club or even the regional team program as well. But many of them still do go on and have successful high school careers.
We have a couple questions. First, about the regional teams. Will they play in Little Big South? They will not. Our regional teams will have 4 one-day tournaments that are held here at the facility, and 1 2-day tournament as well that will be in Atlanta. So you'll have 5 tournaments throughout the year. Little Big South will not be one of those tournaments. We also have another question about tryouts. The way our tryouts work, we're going to get to the slide here in a minute, and so we'll go in a little more detail. But we strongly suggest that people do as much research as possible, because if you make a team here, we want to be able to finish the night with our teams. If you're unsure about A5, then it might not be the place for you, which is okay. But if you're 100% committed and know that if you make a team that this is the place you want to be, then we'll go ahead and offer you a spot on the team. How many practices per week for the 10 and unders? For all of our regular teams that try out on the first days, those that make a team will practice 2 times per week. Some of our higher level teams might practice 3 times per week. It depends on the team. A regional team will only practice once a week. The practices are twice during the week, Monday through Thursday, and once on the weekend if you're playing for a higher level, more advanced team.
Now, we do offer year-round classes and training opportunities for athletes in a variety of ways, both individually focused and combination work as well.
Youth program, I'm gonna pass it on over to Grace, and she's our youth director for those of you who are new. Again, if you have any questions, just ask in the chat box. Many of these questions that you might have will likely be answered at one point during the PowerPoint, but we're happy to answer as we roll along.
So the youth program is huge for us. It's a big deal. It's the beginning of their career. We will have probably at least 15, I'm guessing maybe 17 teams, but we'll see, between 12U, 11U, 10U. And then those teams, the composition of how many teams in each age group may change per year based on where the age levels, like how many kids are trying out in each group. So we do try to cater to that, accommodate those younger kids. So the goal is no cuts, but I have to believe that we're going to have to cut this year. But I will say this, there's still a place for you with a regional team or CBL. So we have great options for kids. So we have been able to be successful in that cutting, but it was jumping. I mean, the gym was just phenomenal last year, and more kids are getting involved. So I will say this, not everyone will probably get to make a team. However, we'll still have a place for you here at A5 in one of our programs and in our training. What Bob said is huge. Even kids at the older age groups, even though they may not make an A5 team, we still have training for everyone through Volley Performance and through our A5 clinic. So it's huge that we offer that, and kids take advantage of that from all clubs, even if they can't make our teams. That's a big deal. Volley Performance is phenomenal. That's our training arm, and A5 coaches are in that as well, and we have youth stuff with A5. So I want to be transparent now. I believe we're going to have to do some cuts. As far as what Gabe said is huge, the reason why we have to know that night. Gabe was saying, research now, decide what you want to do. If you make an A5 team, will you say yes? Because we need to know that night, and here's why. Because if you say yes, and then we send someone else home, they'll be crying, and then they missed out on an opportunity. Where if you weren't going to take that spot, then we could have had someone else take that spot. So that's big. Please know coming in if you want to commit or not. So what Gabe said in youth, did you want to say something?
Well, I think we can say it later. The most succinct way to say that is have a plan.
Yep.
Have a plan for what you're going to do. The only other thing that I would add is the other sort of cliche thing to say is get in the queue, right? 50% of our athletes every year are either new to the club or change teams. Some up on a higher level team, some on a lower level team. But we don't look at our athletes as one team versus 5 team or 7 team. We look at them as a block of athletes in an age group that we are training. And there are surprises every year about athletes that just work their butts off and come out and make better teams and grow up and become great players. So
Absolutely. I'll say this too. Please don't worry too much in youth about the number behind your team. Anyone can go on to succeed and play college ball. We don't know.
Best setter to ever played in Georgia. We only had 5-12 teams at the time. She was on the 12-5 team. Then she was on the 13-4 team. Then she made the 14-1 team. She went on to be an All-American in Miami and played professionally.
Yes, please don't get caught up in that. We want them to be able to play. I'll say this too. So we are competitive, yet we provide opportunities. And what I mean is that we try to find a role for every player in youth. It is not equal playing time, yet we try to balance it where they at least get some playing time in the course of a match, if they've been to practice and prepared and everything else. We focus very, very much on our skill development. The master coaching that Gabe was talking about, Bob, I think was talking about too, is huge, and that everyone is getting that same training. Everyone is on the same page with that. So we're serious about our training. And yes, we do try to keep it fun too, and I hope you parents do as well. I hope you let the coaches coach them while you can enjoy your child in person.
Well, we're gonna work this hard, and we're not having fun with play, we should probably do something else.
That's right.
We're gonna coach this hard. We're not having fun coaching, we probably ought to do something else.
It is a game. It is a game. So that's what I have on that.
Thanks, Grace. We had a couple questions come in. Somebody asked about a specific age group practices. Our practices will typically be after 5, yes, and around 5:30, and they typically end the latest at 9:45 for the individual practices. Younger teams will typically have the early slots, 5 to 7:30, and older teams will have the 7:30 to 9:45 slot for individual practices. Master coaching practices are typically 5:30 to 8:30, somewhere around there. Just depends on the team. We will offer teams. Somebody asked, will you offer teams the day of tryouts? We will. We not only will offer, we want our teams complete day of, given the amount of demand for playing for an A5 team.
And that plays right into that, have a plan sequence. And we support athletes that want to look other places or try the things or aren't sure. But there's a girl behind that girl that will take that spot. And for us, we want to leave our tryouts with our teams forward.
We had another question about costs. We're going to get to that in a second here. I'll talk a little bit in more detail. And then we also have a question about who's coaching what teams. This is a work in progress. We are always finalizing our head coaches and assistant coaches. We do have most of our head coaches done. Our youth still takes a little bit longer, but it's a work in progress. If you want to know a specific coach for a team, just reach out to us. Some of the answers we'll have. If you're 14 and under, those will be posted on social media here soon. And if you are 15 and above, those will eventually be posted before tryouts. I do see there's some more questions. We're going to move along, and then I'm going to get to these questions as we go along. There is a pretty funny question here, though. Is height a big thing for A5? Well, as Bob always says, if you're tall, you get an extra half star in this sport. But some of the best players that ever come out of our program were not necessarily tall players. So
no, the players come in different. Does height matter? Yeah, it helps. But players come in different types of bodies and different heights. I've coached for this will be my 50th year of coaching, and in those 50 years, right, one of the top 10 players I ever coached was 5 feet tall. So you got to be really careful. He's a great athletes. You would still, to this day, make a top team, right? But that said, right, you can't just tell. There's not one body type that creates great players. There is a trend, but we're trying to look through that trend and see who these athletes are and what they can achieve.
Grace, you want to talk about minis real quick?
Yes, minis is a great place to start for younger ones. We have a lot of fun in minis. I mean, it is, especially, you can all imagine the difference between a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old is huge. And we divide the kids up in 2 different courts, have the younger ones on one court, the older ones on another. But great place to start. We have special net set up, special ball set up. We have a great time. We're introducing them to sports, working on our hand-eye coordination, working on athleticism. It's awesome. It's a great place to start. We have girls and boys in it, and we have a lot of young coaches in it too, and we keep it fun. So that's an excellent place.
It's as good as having a new puppy.
That's right. It's pretty amazing.
I mean, it is. Boy, if you're having a bad day, just go over and stand next to the court, and it will make you smile.
That's right.
We had a specific question about a player's class versus their age, particularly the 17s and 18s. Those rules have changed recently. email us on our info on at A5, and we will get you an answer. I would just need to know your birthday and some other details.
Yeah.
Somebody's asking if we'll have multiple regional teams. We will. We'll try to form as many as we can, given the number of kids in the gym and the talent.
By the way, some of the team stuff, the number of teams is positionally related. We have to have enough setters, enough outside hitters, enough middles, enough liberos or DSs. So
We're talking about costs. And we've already talked about it a little bit, but we'll go a little bit more detail. Our 15s and up, the costs that you see, that goes all the way through June. So that means we've committed them to the postseason, whether they qualify or not. They will go to AAUs. If they qualify, they'll go to USAB and AAUs. We also have a select number of teams that we consider our high-level teams that do qualify year after year that will also have an extended season. That means the costs that you see for them on the website for the higher end teams, those are 14-1, 14-2, 14-3, 13-1, 13-2, 12-1, 12-2, and 11-1 teams all have postseason costs in their postseason fees incorporated into their costs. So we're assuming they are playing all the way through June.
Hey, just for a philosophical insertion here, the reason why we play both AAUs and USAB was a strategic decision at our inception. It lets us train for 8 more weeks, and AAUs has now become an event in and of itself. Originally, we used it to prepare for the national championships, but now it's as much of an accomplishment as USAB national championships are in many cases. So that is why that. And we found that experience so powerful that over the years, we have extended it to a larger number of teams. And a lot of parents and kids grasp that. So at some point in time, a few years ago, we also then created teams that were often hybrid teams, or teams wanted to, complete teams wanted to extend their season, and they could vote to do that to go to AAUs, even if they qualify for nationals.
We had somebody ask how many players are typically committed to colleges. I assume the question is about our seniors, rising seniors. It's typically a little over almost 3/4, I would say, are committed by the time club season starts their senior year. But we've had many high-level players that have come through our programs that have not made a decision yet, and that's okay. Costs, people are asking on the website. I think somebody put a link there. Thank you so much for doing that. You just look for it under the Tryout tab. So what does the fee, the costs include? Somebody asked this earlier. It includes virtually everything as far as what you would assume is taken care of when it comes to running the team. And now that doesn't include like how you're going to feed your kid, but it does include all the tournament fees, the admin stuff, the gym, the coaching, the coaches' lodging and travel, everything. What it does not include is, and this will be the fees that are presented, it will not include your uniforms. Uniforms are, and I'll get into it in a minute here, but uniforms are specific to age group, the uniform costs. The older age groups, they typically get more stuff. They'll get stuff specific for recruiting. They'll have things with their last names on it, for instance. And the younger teams get less stuff. This is all cost, thoughtful, organizational stuff that we do behind the scenes to make sure that, our younger teams are not spending, as much as the older teams. Because when you get older, it does become a little more serious. And those that typically play in our 15s and up, they pretty much realize that volleyball is going to be the sport for them, and that it is likely that this is what they're going to do moving into college. So that's generally how the costs break down. We do have huddle for our teams 14 and up. That includes our 13-1 team. That's a video analysis. One of the great inventions in the statistical world of volleyball. It used to all be done by hand in the past by computer data points, and now they have contracted that work out, and so people do it for us. That means we send video in from the tournaments, and we get back all sorts of analysis on the video, including the ability to break up all of your athletes' contacts to showcase for colleges and or use for developmental purposes. The travel stuff we talked about already in an earlier slide. If you weren't here, 13 and under, they stay with their parents. We will block the rooms. 14s and up, they're going to stay together at the hotels, and those costs are included in the fees that you see. Shoes are not included in the uniform package. We've never included shoes in the uniform package because we have found that, and this is a question on the chat room. So the reason why is that each athlete is different. They have different arches. They have different biological makeups. And we found that some kids are better with certain shoes than others. And instead of forcing every kid to have the same shoe, which might not work for some kids, some kids we found like a long time ago in our early stages of testing this, that there was some shoe that a kid had from a certain brand, and all of their back issues was stemming from this shoe. So, so we don't include the shoes. These are our costs. This information's on our website. Just go on to a5volleyball.com. The link was put in the chats here as well. The low end of the cost would be our lowest team. So for instance, with 14s, it would be our 14-6 team. And then the high end of the cost is our 14-1 team. As you notice, the high ends, those are fairly expensive. Why? Because they travel all over the country to play the best teams in the nation. They are traveling to qualifiers. They're attempting to qualify. They go to AUs. They go to nationals. It is a very serious, very real deal thing for the older, more experienced teams. For the younger teams, you see it's obviously cheaper, and the lower end of that. All the regional teams, the team is a flat fee. That fee will cover 5 tournaments, 4 one-day tournaments, 1 2-day tournament, and 1 coach and 1 practice per week, which this year will start at the end of November and will stretch through that first preseason break like the rest of the teams. Again, this information can be found on our website. Just go to the Tryout tab, scroll down, and you'll see costs. Grace already mentioned, we will have at least 15 teams is our goal for 10 or 12 and unders. We will have more if we can find the coaches for it and if we have the space for it. It's always about coaches and space. So we will field as many teams as we can through 13s and 14s. The low end would be 5, the high end would be 7, 15s. We'll try to have 4 or 5, and then 16s. Our 15s age group was so strong last year. It's very possible we'll have 5 teams again at 16s, and then it tapers off a little once you get into 17s and 18s, typically around 3 teams each. Regional teams will have about 10 teams, 12 through 17s. There is a chance we might have an 18 regional team. It just depends who signs up for tryouts.
Yep.
All the dates and information can be found on the website. So please go on and sign up. I'm going to talk about that here in a second. But here's just a brief view of it. You know, obviously everybody's got schedules and important things in their life. So, it's good to see this early and make sure you have it on your calendar. The regional tryouts will be separated a little from the regular team tryouts. There may be people that try out for us or for other clubs, and they realize, maybe the regional team route is where we want to go, and it'll always precede our regular team
Well,
tryout.
the other thing, and I'm gonna say this humbly, but it is true, is some players want to play with A5, some families want to be with A5. Now, something we have to take really seriously, but they'd rather be here than with other clubs. Now, if that's their choice, we want to be there for them.
There are some questions. I'm going to go through some of the questions here. One of the questions was development stuff. Please go on our website. We have stuff going on daily in the gym. Now, if you're looking for specific physical development, then email our info and we can give you some feedback. We have kids all around the city that train with top individuals that are related to, a whole host of sports, football, et cetera. And there's a lot of great trainers out there. We have some that are involved here at A5. So just reach out to us.
Can I say one thing? Too?
Yes.
Hey, regarding the tryout dates, in order the interest of your child, I do recommend coming to train for tryouts or do some clinics or be seen before the actual tryout day, just in case they're not feeling their best or maybe looking their best. I think it would behoove you and help your child.
That's a great point, Grace. The other reason is just get comfortable in the gym.
Yep.
If they haven't been in the gym, we don't intend for it to be, but if you got 14 courts going and they're all full, a lot of time for a new athlete, that's a intimidating sequence. But I promise that we're welcoming and that there are lots of athletes that walk in the gym for the first time that make teams because they have what it takes they have both talent, desire, and willing to work hard.
So what's included in the travel costs? I mentioned this a little early on for the kids 14 and up. That includes the hotel rooms and then also the coach's travel as well. It won't include a bus or airfare. And this goes into another question below asking about the parents are now responsible for their athletes' travel. All this really means for those of you who have been at A5 that if you are on the select 20% or so of teams that A5 covered the airfare, we won't be doing that anymore. We're allowing the parents to make that decision for cost-effective means. So travel for the 14s and up will be the hotel rooms, and for the 13s and below, the only travel costs are just related to the coach's travel. Some people are asking about the uniform packages. The uniform packages, specifically, you'll find that out when we get there. I don't have it in front of me, but it is a long list. We are with a new organization this year called REN, and we've got a really cool package set up for all of the teams and the age groups. Again, the older teams are going to get the most stuff, and that cost will be more than the younger teams, which will get some less things. You will have bags, knee pads, sweat shirts, spandex, jerseys, the list goes on. All that information you'll find when we get closer and you come to tryouts. 16 teams I mentioned. Some people are asking how many. We're going to try to possibly have 5 teams this year. It's not guaranteed, but it is one of our strongest age groups from the bottom up. And because we had so much success there last year, we will try to have 5 teams if the numbers allow. We have somebody asking about both days of tryouts. You'll have to read the fine print, but the second day of tryouts are only for athletes that did not make a team, and that is for 14s, 13s, 12s, and unders. We will have a second tryout. If you don't make a team, those kids that come to tryout will be considered for an additional team, And for the 12 and unders, you also might have an opportunity to be placed on a team that's already been formed. How many players per team? We typically will have about anywhere from 11 to 13. Our younger teams, 11 or 12, and our older teams, 12 to 13. 13 almost always on our best top teams because of the level of commitment, the training regimen, everything. It's really intense, and coaches, they need options. They need options in practice, and they do their best to make sure people get on the court. But given the nature of how competitive it is, like most clubs in the city and in the country, you're going to have either 12 or 13 kids on the older, more competitive teams. Somebody's asking a little more details of the CBL. I really would recommend going on to the website and looking at the information there. It is not like our regular teams in the sense that they'll have a head coach and they will have teammates that will extend throughout the year. They will come to the gym. They will train for a few hours in their age groups, and then they will play 6-on-6, but they won't necessarily have a team. Next is our tryout methodology. We really ask that you come to the gym with a plan. We've spoken about it 2 or 3 times already. So this is a very important part of the process. You know, the tryout process is really intense, and we get it, and it's hard for us like it is for everybody. And you know, maybe it could be done a better way, but we have rules and stuff we have to follow, meaning we can only start it on a certain day, and you know, we can only have commitment night and have your paperwork turned in on another day. And so we try our best to take all things into consideration. But if you, when you do come to tryouts, we do ask one parent attend the entire tryout, because we may want to talk about what your intentions are.
Or you may want to talk to us. Yeah. There may be relevant questions you need to ask. When we're on that time, that time schedule thing.
Yeah, some people are asking, and we understand where it may be a little confusing, that should you register for regular, so always register for the regular tryout. And then if you do not make a team and you feel a regional team based on the information that's on the website and what we've expressed here might be for you, then we suggest coming to that.
There are regional team trials open. Teams are open for registration.
Yeah, that as well. You know, we hate talking about the bad stuff, but there are times when people have been removed. That's when people accept a spot on the team and or quit during the season, fail to pay their bills, and we do have a player-parent contract that the families fill out for the season. Parent athlete to-dos. Please register for tryouts. Bob, can you talk a little bit about registering for tryouts and about why we need them to register early so we can evaluate?
Yes, it's really a big part of what we do is to know the athletes and know how they fit in. And so for us, we need to have it really helps the athletes and families and gives us an opportunity to evaluate the athletes and figure out where, in our opinion, they might fit in our program. So both the numbers of athletes is important to register, and then to be able to attend training for tryouts and some of our opportunities in that area, even if it's on our in our classroom work, that sort of stuff, that it gives us a chance to evaluate the athlete and to establish a relationship and hopefully a dialogue. So the sooner you can do that, the better off, if you're interested, then the better it will be for both your athlete and us as well, as we try to make reasoned decisions based on reason and logic.
We got a good question about athletes that go to other clubs, they try out for older teams because, and this is nothing against the other clubs around the city, that A5 is a very large step ahead of everybody else. So there are kids that can make higher level older teams in the city, but at A5, you try out for your age group. We don't have kids that play up. There are very small scenarios where it occurs, but almost never happens. Most kids, if they can make a team at A5, of course, we're going to say take it because get in the queue, right, Bob?
Yes, get in that line and let your work ethic and talent rise to the top.
Somebody's asking about the AAU dates. They have not announced those yet. They try to balance them with USAV. There could be a overlap this year, but that's something that we'll just have to wait and see. So somebody else is asking about returning players with the backpack. I won't know that. Just reach out to LA. She'll be able to answer it for you. Somebody's asking about the average uniform cost. The uniform costs vary based on age. The most expensive plan is and the cheapest plan is pretty in line with years past for all new gear. And the highest cost for the older kids would be in the high 300s. And then maybe 400, but high 300s. And then the lowest cost will be in the high 100, 200 range for the youngest teams and or regional teams. People are continuing to ask about not making a team on day one. Yes, if you come to the second day of tryouts, you will be considered for another team. It is very rare that if you come back to tryouts that you'll be able to make a higher level team, particularly for the 13s and 14s, because those teams are typically solidified. More people asking about the uniforms. Somebody's asking, we talked about the cost a little bit, so you have that information. The new uniforms, yes, we're going with a new company this year, REM. We're really excited, and we've seen the designs and such, and once again, they'll be second to none. When COVID happened, many of you, this will be a trivia question, but they did have a national championship during COVID. The national championship was best uniforms, and we won it. And so that was the year that we started having our athletes design the uniforms. And we think it's an important part of the process and a really cool aspect and cultural development thing.
Absolutely. It's really fun to see both the girls and the guys get excited about having input and how they're going to look on the court.
There are some specific questions coming by the facility, please, anytime. We're open every day, and they're really almost in a day that we're not open that you can't come by and check it out. Because of course it is a very large volleyball facility. We got to have it filled. And so we got program stuff daily. Sunday's a great day if you want to come by.
Well, you know, one of the things we prided ourselves on, and maybe this is the wrong way to, did the sun come up? Then we're in the gym. I mean, literally. I mean, New Year's Day, we're in the gym. Just who we are.
Some of that information is in front of you now, the PowerPoint, but all of it, and somebody asked this as well, can be found on the website. So the CBL, the Train for Tryouts, Volley Performance, Volley Performance, that link is volleyperformance.com. Those are the private lessons. We do recommend anybody that wants to get smaller group training, go on there, particularly training during the week and the weekends. We still have a few clinics that are finishing up in the next couple weeks that you can join late. We have, for those of you that have experience that are rising, 13 and unders, we have a Tuesday, Thursday elite group you can join. Got to have experience though. And Monday, Wednesdays, for those of you with no or very little experience, we suggest joining that. If you are trying out, we really implore you to sign up for the Train for Tryouts. That gives us our first evaluation of the athletes, and it allows us to evaluate the players, assuming you've tried out. You've also signed up for tryouts. So make sure you do those two things. Sign up for tryouts, and if you can, try to come to Train for Tryouts. It also gets out some of the jitters, allows the kids to get an understanding of what the tryout process will be like.
Yeah, it isn't exactly a mirror of what we do at tryouts, but a lot of the drills are similar and the pace is similar.
Somebody's asking about A5's regional team versus A5 Gwinnett's regional team. They are very similar, but not the exact same thing. For Gwinnett, you'll need to go to their website. They also will have an info meeting that you can find that information specifically for them. For us, again, that information can be found online. It's one coach and one practice a week, and you'll play in 5 tournaments throughout the season, and your season will end in April. I'm going to continue to go through the questions here. We're getting a lot of great questions. So will there be Train for Tryouts for 10U? Yes. That is all. What is listed for 12U, that is everyone.
Yeah.
So that's a really good question. We'll make sure that's a little more clear moving forward. Like to thank Jessica, who continues to put up the links. Thank you so much. How many practices? Again, our practices, we practice twice a week. The more experienced, older teams will practice typically 3 times a week. The practices, master coaching, those are a little bit longer. They incorporate conditioning and some other things, about 3 hours or so. And the individual practices are about 2 to 2.5 hours.
So just a little bit of insight into the master coaching stuff. It goes on for all of our teams that play. We use this methodology across the board, both the CBL and the regional program as well. The master coaching, it is like, for instance, with our older teams, we have 10 teams on 5 courts. We want a scripted practice that's progression driven over the course of the year. And so we get a chance to expose athletes to our core training concepts, and we know that they're getting that, and they get exposed also to a variety of coaches.
We have a question about long distance travelers. We pride ourselves over the demand that we have for those that travel long distances to play for us. We have many stories, but one of the top recruits in the United States this past year played at A5. Mariana Singletary, she goes to Texas and plays in Texas, and she traveled from Charleston, South Carolina. We'll typically have about half a dozen out-of-town players, South Carolina in particular, and Alabama, Tennessee as well. We also have athletes that travel from far south or far north. And if, for the most part, everybody's supposed to make every single practice, there are some exceptions, and those would have to be made on an individual basis, depending on the team and the athlete. So you just have to reach out to us on a personal level for us to be able to answer those questions. A lot of people are asking about the coaching, the coaches. They will be announced in the coming weeks, so just be on alert through our social media. Yeah, just really appreciate Jessica posting a lot of the information there. Great information, and CBL as well. Again, visit our website, and any questions that you have, you can email our info at A5, and we really encourage you guys to reach out, do your research, come to the gym, come to as many lessons and training as possible so they can get in front of the coaches, because that's the biggest thing. And really appreciate everyone joining. If anybody has any last minute questions, please ask and we'll try to answer. Sessions. There's some very specific questions. Scott, if you could just reach out to us on the admin email, and we'll get back to you with some specific answers. Just let them know that you had asked some questions that you wanted to get some specific answers to from the presentation. The carpool, we don't do a carpool map anymore for families for safety reasons. We used to back in the day. And for those of you that are traveling afar, we will, obviously the team, you'll be able to connect with everyone on the team, see who might live near you. And then typically in age groups, the parents are very tight knit here at A5, same with the players. It is like one big family. And you'll often, in the very first couple of weeks being here, find, hey, here's 2 or 3 kids that come from my area, from my school, whatever it is. And typically parents and everybody helps each other here. They stick together, they find ways to.
Well, a really great example of that is we have a lot of athletes that we're blessed about this, that come from the South Side. And as you know, in the city, we're very bifurcated. It's hard to get through traffic at 5 o'clock. But almost every year, those parents and families in the South Side will group up together and figure out how to carpool and get up here. And that happens on a regular basis. So it just affirms the approach that families help each other here, and then carpools and that kind of stuff happens all the time amongst our athletes and families to help them be successful in our gym.
The practice times, we did go over this a little bit, but for the younger teams, again, for all teams, it's anywhere from 5:30 to 8:30, 8:45 for the master coaching practices, and then either 5 to 7:30 or 7:30 to 9:45 for their individual practices, depending on the age. And the tournament schedules will be available when you come to tryouts. You will see what those look like. We did send a note out to all the A5 families this past year. For a lot of the older, higher level teams, we did add a tournament, which is probably the first time that we've changed the schedules in that way in about 10 years. And it's a little bit piggybacking off the #1 ranking in the country. We want to continue to find the best competition and also be able to showcase ourselves, and as it relates to the older kids, for recruiting purposes as well. All right, well, we really appreciate everybody joining. We had a lot on. Thanks so much. If you guys have any questions, just reach out to our info and we'll get back to you with an answer. Please come join any of our programs in the facility. They are running daily. We'd love to see you come to train for tryouts. Somebody mentioned just now, go on ESPN and watch Louisville and Kentucky. And they're on ESPN1 right now playing volleyball. So that's the future.
What's worth, we have a recruit that's going to Kentucky that will go in a couple of years. And we have a current player that played for us before that currently plays for Louisville.
Yeah, so really exciting. All right, thanks everybody.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.